My name is Mike Johnston, and I'm the author of Confessions of a Dork Lord, the comic novel about the son of a Dark Lord. And I'm going to read for you today the first chapter of my novel. It starts on Saturday. The Dark Ages. I think I'll start with the obvious. I mean, everyone knows who the Dark Lord is, right? He's the guy with the all-black wardrobe, the villainous ruler with the vile henchmen, the bad guy the good folks just love to hate. But what's a Dork Lord? Is it a cruel joke? A careless mispronunciation? Actually, it's a bit of both. See, the name Dark Lord comes from the old Orcish phrase, Lord Dork, which means Lord of the Orcs. When I first went to school, I tried to explain my future title to a bunch of orcs, but all they heard was Dork and Lord. So that's what they called me, Dork Lord. My friends call me Wick, but my full name is Azrael Balgaroth the Wicked, Keeper of the Fountains of Flame, Breaker of Worlds, son of the Dark Lord who vanished, and heir to the throne of black and broken glass. But that one hasn't exactly caught on, and I guess there's a reason for that. Dark Lords are generally tall and intimidating. My dad was 6'10" and wore a cloak woven from fire. He was the real deal, and no one called him a dork, not unless they wanted to get torched. He could level mountains or turn whole forests to ash. We're talking major stuff, feats no Dark Lord had ever accomplished before. Even the dragons bowed to him. But 10 years ago, the fair folk, the elves, humans, and dwarves, attacked the Grimfolk, which is pretty much everyone else like me. The ogres, orcs, dragons, goblins, witches, and warlocks. During the surprise, totally unfair attack, the good wizard Glorian struck down the Dark Lord and Dark Lady, aka my mom and dad. But he must have been feeling pretty smug after winning the fight, because he accidentally tripped and fell on my dad's throne of black and broken glass. That was the end of Glorian, so the battle finished with a truce. And 10 years later, we're still at peace with the fair folk, which is kind of a relief for me, because, well, I'm the heir to the Dark Lord's throne. But just to make things clear, there's nothing dark or terrible about me. I'm 12, and at 4'10", I'm a bit short for my age. Also, it's hard to be into the whole fire and brimstone thing when you've got allergies. Smoke makes my eyes water, and I don't do well in extreme temperatures. Try standing next to a shower of flame. It's not as fun as it sounds. Not as fun at all, actually. I'm a kid for orc's sake. If you're curious what that kid looks like, we have some wonderful illustrations in this book by our illustrator, Marta. Just amazing. I love them. And here's her illustration of the Dark Lord himself. Phenomenal. Back to the story. And I spend most of my time trying to get through the day without embarrassing myself. It's no small task. Dad didn't make it easy for me to follow in his grim and fiery footsteps. In fact, he did just about the opposite. He left strict instructions with his minions so they'd know just what to do if anything ever happened to him. And he didn't tell them anything helpful like, you must bow to the son of the Dark Lord. No, he chose a different direction. For some reason, Dad wanted me to have a normal childhood. Terrible, I know. So I didn't inherit his gold, and he commanded his henchmen to treat me like any other kid. No special privileges, no treats, no titles, and most of all, no respect. None at all. Dad wanted me to prove myself as a leader, and he thought I should do it without anyone's help. It's how he earned the Dark Throne, and it's the reason why my life is basically one big disaster. Today was a perfect example. I had just walked out into the courtyard of the Grimhold when one of the biggest ogres in my class, Bob Ogerson, came charging up to me. "You're next on the list, Balgrath. Get ready," he cried. Immediately, I groaned. The list is the Castle Ogre's Index of Muscle, Magic, and Mayhem. It's an age-old tradition started and run by the ogres that ranks the children of the Grimfolk. The ogres call it a contest, but there aren't any real games. The last time I checked, lifting or smashing stuff wasn't exactly considered a sport, but that's what we do in the contests. In preparation for this sacred tradition, I'd been working on a phony cold, sniffling a bit each day. By tomorrow, I plan to have a full-blown case of the fake flu, leaving me bedridden and unable to compete. But apparently, the ogres decided to hold the contest a day early. Already, the warlocks and witches were lined up, and there was Bob waving me over, the list in his hand. I sensed disaster. These days, only the muscleheads take the top slots in the Castle Ogre's Index, which is why I call it the Brute List. It's also the reason why I plan to be out sick. This was the first year I was eligible for the contest, and in all honesty, I was worried about my prospects. I just wasn't ready for this sort of thing. I'm a warlock. We study the dark arts, and we do it at our own pace. Casting a powerful spell isn't like smashing in a skull or battering down a door. It's more like trying to hit a bullseye at 300 yards while performing the dance of grim merriment, as you recite 2 lines of trochaic tetrameter. Needless to say, magic takes decades to master. So by the time I'm ready to obliterate something, water break. Thank you. By the time I'm ready to obliterate something, Bob will probably be living in an old folks' home or something like that. Unfortunately, he's not there yet, not even close. And I'm a warlock in training, a student of remedial spellcasting. I have a few tricks up my cloak sleeves. Well, actually, that's a lie. I have almost no skills. But that's not my fault. The stuff they teach us in school is just lame. It takes years to learn high-level mind-blowing magic, spells that can shatter castle walls or annihilate whole armies, and we're not even close to studying that stuff, not by a mile. Or 100 miles, for that matter. In all honesty, the best enchantment I know is probably the fart revealer. That's right, there's nothing wrong with your ears or your eyes. The best spell I know is the fart revealer. After someone tooted his horn, this enchantment makes the guilty gas bag glow green. And you know what? It's actually a pretty useful spell. I like it. The goblins love it. And the warlocks use it all the time. Everyone always wants to know who farted. So, when Bob called out, "Dork Lord, your turn," I had only one choice. "Is that a foul odor I smell?" I asked as I sniffed the air. Of course, in the Grimhold, you never have to wait long for an ogre to shake one loose. I figured there was probably a 50-50 chance that someone had already blown one. And I was right. The air was filled with stink. Half the goblins were already pinching their noses, and even the orcs looked disgusted. I had just struck gold, or so I hoped. "I've got this one," I exclaimed. If the spell worked, I'd probably make the low end of the list. I didn't even want to think about what would happen if I messed up, so I said the enchantment, Orgogrum Findum Flatulum. Then I went through the spell's physical components, which involve a whole bunch of finger waving and stuff like that. I lifted my hands, but I couldn't remember if I needed to do a double twist of the wrist, followed by a slight tug on my little finger, or a hard tug on my little finger, followed by a full wrist flex. I took a chance and went for the double twist, but nothing happened. I waited. Then I did the full wrist flex, but it was too late. The air had cleared, literally. My spell had failed, and there I was, surrounded by Grimmies, everyone in the courtyard looking at me. Even that three-headed ogre Grimshoulders had all 6 of his eyes trained on me and was giggling like a lunatic. As for me, I wasn't the least bit surprised at my failure. At this point, I should probably stop and explain something, even though I'm the son of the Dark Lord who vanished. I've never cast a spell, at least not successfully. My dad isn't around to teach me the secrets of his magic, and for some reason, I just can't cast the lame spells they teach us at school. I ought to be a great warlock, but I'm not. In fact, I'm terrible at spell casting, so I panicked, and that's when my stomach dropped. I felt a bit of gurgling in my mid-parts, and I tried to stop it. Heck, I clenched my cheeks with every bit of strength I had. But there was no going back. I let loose my own fart. And this time everyone heard it and knew exactly who'd blown the horn. The goblins pinched their noses, and even the ogres took a step back to avoid the stink. I hoped that at least my fart would have triggered some enchantment, proving that I had some magical ability. But the spell had come and gone, just like my chances to impress everyone. And that's how we meet the Dork Lord. If you enjoyed this, I am reading the rest of the novel on my Instagram TV, M. Johnston Author. Thanks for tuning in. This was Confessions of a Dork Lord by Mike Johnston. Thanks a lot. I'm Mike Johnston, and I'm the author of Confessions of a Dark Lord. Today, I'm going to challenge you to write a short story about a contest of wizards. That's right. I want you to imagine a witch and a wizard, or 2 wizards, whatever you want, drawing wands in a contest to see who is the better spellcaster. To help you, I'm going to provide a few quick pointers. Then I'll read an example from my book. First off, magic. There are no limits. A spell can do anything, so get ready to stretch your imagination. Second, sometimes it's more interesting to see what happens when a spell fails. We learn as much from these failures as our successes. Third, details. Do your spells have words? Are they in English? I don't know. Maybe you can invent your own language. So what about wand waving, hand gestures, spell components? Do you need a dash of frog's breath to complete your incantation? I don't know, but think about it. Lastly, let's go over a brief example. I'm going to read a scene from my book that's similar to the one we've been talking about. Now, I'll dive right into the action. I said, bum bum erraticus ire. I was pretty sure I nailed it. Heck, it was only 3 words. All I had to do to complete the spell was snap 2 fingers simultaneously. I accidentally hit 3. So, instead of removing the wart from Tempest's neck, I removed her ear. It was an honest mistake, but goblins are a vengeful lot. In return for what I thought was a bit of accidental finger snapping, Tempest let forth what could only be described as a tempest of insults. Then she cast her own version of the spell I'd bungled. The goblin snapped 4 fingers just to see what would happen and made one of my eyes disappear. I'm not sure where it went, but I'm almost certain I looked like a cyclops. In case you're curious what that looks like, some wonderful illustrations from Marta, our illustrator. Now, to wrap things up, I want you to try to take this to the next level. Imagine your witch and wizard duel as part of a larger story. I want you to ask yourself how your heroes found themselves in a contest. Is it friendly? Are they enemies? I don't know. You tell me. And have fun with it. And remember, if you love to write, Never stop practicing. Thanks for listening, and good luck.
Hi there, my name is Marta Altés and I'm the illustrator of this book, Confessions of a Dork Lord. This is Wick. He lives in a very fantastic world full of dragons, goblins, orcs, and ogres. So imagine how fun it was for me to illustrate it. I thought that maybe today I can show you a little bit of my sketchbook so you can see the early drawings of this book. And after that, I'm gonna show you how to draw some of the characters. Well, this is a sketchbook that I used for this project. And you'll see how the characters keep changing throughout the sketchbook, and they keep evolving: the shape of the head, how tall they are, the textures. At this point, I had just read the story and I was itching to start drawing Wick and his friends and playing with ink, really. I had drawn with ink before, but never for a long project like this. So it was just so much fun. Just playing with all the textures, with the tones of grays and blacks. I really loved coming up with a character of Story. She is great. Also, him is just always so grumpy. I just wanted for it to look almost like his diary. See, and I felt like I was in school as well, repeating all these days of the week. See, Gory's dog were different at the beginning. I thought that this would be fun as well, but they ended up being like this one. There's so many of them, and I even have another sketchbook full of these characters and then playing. See, this scene keeps coming, and I was using white paint as well and adding pieces of paper when I wasn't happy with the drawing. This was very, very fun to draw. And actually, where is it? I'm gonna show you how it went from the first sketch to the final. This was also very fun to draw. All of these books that we finds in the library. So what I'm gonna use to draw today is an ink pen, some ink, and some brushes. A good one and some dry ones. I'll tell you why later. And some water as well. Do you know what we're gonna draw? We're gonna draw Gory. Gory is an orc, and as you know, he takes care of Wick, and they live together, but he's a bit grumpy. I'm gonna start by drawing a circle like this, and then after I add 2 big ears. There is many ways of drawing orcs. This is just mine. We've said that Gory is not very happy all the time, so we're gonna draw this very big mouth like this. he makes me laugh. And he's got 2 big teeth coming out of her mouth. You know what Gory has as well? He's got his nose pierced. There you go. Now, as he is not very happy in this drawing, we're gonna draw his eyebrows like this, in this angle. You probably know that if he was happy, the eyebrows would go another angle, right? And here's one eye, and here's another one. I'm gonna make him looking to the side, and we're gonna think that maybe Wick is next to him, so he must be telling something very important. Now, what else? Ogres have lots of texture on their faces. So I'm gonna be adding these lines. You can add as many lines as you want. Just do so until you're happy. And Gory also has these on his skin. It's a kind of tattoo, but it's not. It feels like something that maybe he got. Oops, a spill. That's okay. I'm gonna use a brush to fix this. See, that's what you can do if something like this happens to you. There you go. That's not too bad. Now I'm gonna use the rest of the ink that is here from the ink pen and add the rest of his marks here. They go just around his face, just some here as well. Yeah, I'm gonna add some here as well. Wow, there's so much ink that fell in here. Now, Gory also has his ears pierced. So I can imagine that he's been in lots of battles and he is respected by everybody. Now, let's add a couple of earrings here. Maybe another one. There you go. Now, Gory also has a couple of little horns here on top of his head. And two bigger horns that go like this. Sometimes it's difficult to make something that is symmetrical, but it's okay if it's a bit different, so don't you worry. These horns are also wrapped up a little bit with these. I also can imagine that it's to protect him for battles as well. And these horns all have lots of texture, so I'm gonna add a bit of this. See, while we keep drawing the rest, we see how the ink is drying, which is gonna be good for us to add the final touches with the dry brushes. Now, Gory also has this very cool outfit, I think. Three horns on each shoulder pad. It's very important for you to add all these little textures because that adds a lot of detail. And then it makes it more believable. See, so we can see all the stitches. Yeah, how is Gory looking? I can imagine he'd be really, really, really tall. And now let's make his jacket like one of these general jackets. Let's add all the stitches here. And then see, because Gory has been battling for so many years, he also has lots of badges, and I think maybe you can come up with your own as well. See, I'm gonna add another kind of little orc face here. This one is gonna be angry too. There you go. And now maybe a smaller one. What else could we add here? Maybe he loves his dog, so maybe he's got one with one of his dogs here. Do you remember the names of the dogs? I thought that was very funny. One's called Sunshine and the other one is called Rainbow. And they're very scary dogs. There you go. And see, maybe because he's wearing these must be very old as well, so maybe we can add some more texture, some buttons as well. I wonder what his pajamas look like. And maybe some stitches here. There you go. Now we're gonna have to wait a little bit for this to dry before we move on to the next step. If you're not patient like me, I'm not patient at all. What you can do is use a piece of paper. If there's not too much ink, we'll see. And then dry the extra ink with the paper. It also adds some fun accidents to it. There you go. See? It's made some of the lines go thicker here. And I quite like that. Now, while we wait how this dries, I want for you to get your pen, your brushes, and then see how how they paint. See, this is my dry brush. I want to get rid of some of the ink. See, this is gonna be good for the background. But see what it does? Suddenly, like it's got this great texture that we can use on maybe his horns. Yeah. Here too. And we can play around. See, you can see where you want to add this texture. I think the jacket probably suits this texture a lot. Do you have enough texture there? So now with the other brush, the one that is a bit cleaner and not dry, see, I recommend for you to test what the water and ink looks like on the rest of the paper. See how it can paint very dark or very pale. So what I want is to find this gray, because that's gonna be the color of his face. And then I go over his face. There you go. Now see, some of the ink hasn't dried properly yet, so maybe you have to be a bit more patient. But I think that adds to the texture of his skin. Also, it's always very fun to see what the ink does. There you go, and this other ear. And if you want, you can keep painting on top of his uniform, of his jacket. See how this ink is already dry, so it's easier to paint on top. I hope your gory is looking good. And this is it. This is the final result of my drawing. I hope you like it, and I hope you had fun, and I encourage you to keep drawing. Just try and see what the other characters of the book would look like if you drew them. Bye!